Hey everyone, Chris here. I was asked by a customer to do a short video on how I get these, how I make these beads. And this is for the stuff that I do that is all hand turned. So basically they start out, the material is acrylic. And this is the way they come when I get them. Now, this is usually 1 meter long, and they're poured in 1 meter by 1 meter sheets. The colors are mixed together, and then they shake them, and then they cure, and then they're cut in 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch, 1 meter long bars. Now, what I make most of the beads out of are cutoffs that were left over from projects from the CNC shop that I work with. This was probably a knob or a peg or something. And when they get to the bottom of that 1 meter rod, the CNC machine can't hold on to anything any longer. So these are just go into a 5-gallon bucket, and I literally have thousands of what I call chunks. Now, a CNC machine, this is a lathe, and this spins at high speed. And this is a tool rest. And I rest my tool here, and I use the blades and I cut the shapes. A CNC machine is a big machine about the size of an SUV and the price of an exotic sports car. You know, the CNC machine that I do most of my work on is a Haas machine, and it's about 6 foot tall and I'd say about 14 feet long, maybe 16 feet long. I don't know, with the bar feeder, probably even longer. I don't know, I've never actually measured it. But they're pretty big machines. But this is just for hand made stuff here. And so what I do is once a week I go to the shop for meetings to see what the projects are doing, and I'll grab a bucket or a bag of acrylic chunks. So what's great about that is when you get these rods, they're not always in a place where you would want a bead. So like if I was going to make a bead out of this, I couldn't use that section in the center there because there's really no figure. But if I wanted to at that end, there'd be something here I could work with. Not too much at the end, but if I cut out the center part, it would have a nice band through it. And as you can see with this yellow translucent, you can see how you can see through it. And that's got a lot of figure in it. But here's the same color, and there's nothing in it. Not that this wouldn't make a beautiful bead, but you know, it's good for me to be able to pick the chunks, so I don't have to sit there and cut out parts. I go through all these chunks, and then I find the ones that are the better ones, and that's the ones I take home to make beads. So you're really getting a premium bead. This piece here, you can see there's not a lot going on in here. That most likely will go in the trash unless I just cut off that end to make a small piece here. So I really get to pick and choose the stuff that I use to make the beads. So when I come home, I take the beads over to my drill press, the chunks that I was going to use, and I pre-drill all of them. As you can see, this one here has got a hole in it. There's like here. All right, so this is pre-drilled, but the ends are not square. So then after I pre-drill them all, I bring them over to this machine here, and I square the ends so it's perfectly square. Next step is I have a bunch of boards with sandpaper from 320, 400 to 600, and I sand the ends. And then the ends look, they look like kind of like this. Actually, no, that's not that. That's the one I'm looking for. I have one here. The ends are kind of like, they're smooth, but they're not shiny. Oh, here's one. This is one I'm looking for. They're not shiny, but they're smooth. And because it's hard to get in here to polish, I put the end on a buffing wheel while I have that wide flat, that big surface, because if I put it on the buffing wheel at the end, any of the sharp edges may be burnt on the buffing wheel. So I buff it out smooth until I get that nice refractive end here, like that. So now this is ready to go. Only the other thing I'll do is, like, they have square edges like that. On my belt sander, I'll knock off the square edges just so I'll have a little bit less to turn. Then they're put in here, and this gets closed up like that all the way to the end of here. They're turned on, and that spins really fast. And as it's spinning, I have a whole bunch of different shape blades. They're called skews and gouges. This one here is like a flat, sharp edge. These things are all different shapes and sizes and for different purposes. This is for like inside curves. See, different shapes. And then also I have carbide ones. This is what I use to make the what do you call those? The true stone beads, because the carbide is a much harder material, and if I use the other tools, I wouldn't be able to finish one bead without dulling. I'd go through 3 or 4 tools, so I have to use carbide tools on the true stone. But that's a whole nother video. So then after this gets turned down, and I find the shape, the circle that I wanted, I can look at this and say, okay, do I want to make it smaller? How do I want to make the design? How am I going to accentuate the profile that's in there? So like this one, I can do like a roller bearing style, like you see with a groove, or a barrel, or I can make it even smaller and make a barrel. But that's be a small bead. I'm not going to put a lot of detail into a small bead. So then after that, after I get to the shape I want, say I like that barrel shape, I just want to leave it like that with square edges, I got to move on to polishing. Now, polishing is what usually takes a lot of the time, depending on how much detail went into the bead. And this is my sanitary polishing draw, because you can't let any of the dirt and grit and stuff from anything get onto this, because you want every process of the finish to be better than the next. Otherwise, you'll get to the end, you'll realize you made a mistake. And this has just been cleaned. It's not always this clean, but different types of paper, different shapes and sizes. These are like nail files. You can see they're all color coded. So after I get this bead smooth, I move it, and these are wet. These are used wet. I put a cover over the top of the bed of here. I move all the stuff away. I wet the bead, I wet the sandpaper, and then I start working through the grits of the regular dry sandpaper first. Then after the dry sandpaper, all the wet sandpaper. And the wet sandpaper goes from 1500, 1800, 2400, 3200, 36, 4000, 6000, 8,000, and then 12,000 is this one here, which is like I'm sorry, 12,000. Yeah, 12. This one here is 12,000. Someone's like leather. And then after that, I still have to work it with compounds. This is a compound with, it's like a wax, a beeswax with a very, very fine powder in it to help polish it. I have some other liquid ones. I've even formulated some of my own, which are, secret recipes. This is one of my own polishing compounds I designed myself. After that, it's completely polished. Then it has to be cleaned, chamfered the inside edges. I'll hit the end with a little bit of buff and hope, not to do any, because when you buff it, you got to be careful. The buffing wheel moves very fast. I'll buff out the end a little bit, and at the end, that's how we come to these. And that's it's awesome because I get a chance to pick and choose what I put into them, because I could see the small piece before I start working with it. So that's it, from a square piece like that to one of these absolutely incredible, fascinating beads, to have on your keychain or make a piece of jewelry out of. All right, so thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. We'll be doing some more videos on some of the true stone and some of the CNC stuff afterwards. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.